Hey everybody, it's Rick Trummer from Rick Trummer Consulting and Training, and welcome back to video number 4 in the Mathematics of Pricing and Business Management section that we're going to be doing over the next couple weeks. If you remember from yesterday, I had you figure out what your value per hour and per minute is for every day. So with that information, we're going to be able to now figure out our pricing for a few different things. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. We know that from our equation, we're going to have to figure out what our break-even analysis is for our particular business. So on page 3 of my business practices, you'll be able to notice that I figured out what our break-even analysis is for each of those. So let's figure it out, our break-even analysis for our specific business that we have. Remember that our yearly cost of operation is $282,351.35. So if we had a 40% cost of goods, that means that we would have to roughly bring in $470, $580, $558. Now again, that's a break-even analysis by going through the math. If we had a 30% cost of goods, you can see that the number is lower, and it gets lower every time we go through our 10% cost of goods. And remember that you have to add 10% onto each of these for profit. So once we figure out our cost of goods, we'll be able to know what that break-even point. Most studios are somewhere between 18 and 22% cost of goods, and we're going to be able to figure that in once we kind of do the math. As you can see from another one, again, back to page 3 of our mathematics of pricing, I've kind of gone through the mathematics of pricing and how to take those examples through there. But let's go ahead and price out that 8x10 that you're going to be selling to a customer. So by using math now, we know how much we have to be able to sell our specific products for. So we know that from our lab, that print cost us $1.87. So we need to put that into the cost. Now, depending on how you're finishing that, whether you're putting on mounting or spray, some people do a spray, some people do a coating. There's differences in each. For our example, I always mount my prints. It's $3.65 for that mount. And for our hand spray, it's $5.35. That means that it's going on, that's a spray can going on $5.35. And for a coating, it's $1.22. That's when it goes through a coating machine. So you'll have to take your individual products, whatever you like best, and be able to add it in. Now, the other things that we haven't added yet in for that 8x10 is we've got our miscellaneous studio costs. These are the costs for the box, the bag we put that 8x10 in, all of that stuff. Now, we're just pricing out a single 8x10 at this point. You'll be able to give a slight discount because maybe somebody's ordering multiple 8x10s, but your math is going to be pretty much the same. You'll be able to take out a few items, because you'll be able to put in 4 or 5 8x10s or maybe more into that box, or whatever those miscellaneous studio costs are, the bag, frames, whatever you're putting in for those miscellaneous costs. Your retouching fees. Now, you remember from our example, we had $1.81 per minute. Now, if you know your value per minute, this is where you're going to be putting it in. So you have your retouching fees. Let's just say, for example, we are at $1.81 per minute. That costs $9.05 for 5 minutes of work. That's how much it costs. So we're going to add all of these costs up. So if we're doing hand spray, the cost of that 8x10 is $24.42. If we're doing coating, the cost is $20.29. So just by taking those two specific items right here, we know that, again, $24.42 or $20.29, depending if it's hand spray or coated. Now, this is where you figure out where you want to be cost of goods. So if we had a 40% cost of goods, we would divide the cost of that total print, we would divide it by our cost of goods. In this case, let's just say, for example, we had a 40% cost of goods. So we have our 2029, which is the value with coding, divide by my cost of goods, which I've added up at 40%, and we need to sell that particular item, that 8x10, for $50.73. If we had a 30% cost of goods, we would still take the same $20.29 and we would divide it by 30%, and that would equal $67.63. Now you know why studios are charging $75 or $100 or $125 for an 8x10. They've actually gone through the math and figured out what their cost of goods is and how much that particular unit costs. Let's figure this out with hand spray. If we have hand spray on this particular product, it's $24.42. And if we divide that by, let's say, our 40% cost of goods, it turns out we have to sell that product for $61.05 minimally. And if we have a 30% cost of goods, it has to be $81.40. That's the minimum that we have to sell that particular product for. Now you know why we have to charge X amount of dollars for an 8x10. It's all depending on how much you're paying for the product and what you're putting into the final product to be able to get it to its final stage. So your cost of goods really matters in the end result, along with how much time you're spending on any particular product to put it in. A lot of people, a lot of studios even take their cost down to a point of how much time it takes to get their products taken out of the box from the lab and actually taken out and put in. And there's a value of how much time it takes you to do that, and should you be charging on a per minute basis to put that into your cost. Everybody's different how they do it, but now you know why we can get to a certain cost for an 8x10 based on the math, folks. So for tomorrow, what I want you to do is go in with some of your products and figure out what your costs are for these particular items that you're dealing with, and then being able to do the math and figure out where you need to be for your output. Why? How much do you need to be charging based on where you are price-wise? So until then, I'm Rick Trummer from Rick Trummer Consulting and Training, and I'll see you on the tube.